You're watching GrassRoots TV.
Hi, I'm Tom Egan with the Aspen Historical Society. It is June 5th, 2008, and we're continuing our chat with John Litchfield, he of the 10th Mountain Division, and what I'd like to talk to you about, John, is your time in Aspen. Dick Merritt, the colonel, talked about the Korean War, World War II. In between that time, you had a connection with Aspen that I think a lot of people are aware of, and we want to talk about that.
Good.
Okay.
Sure.
This will be more fun than war, I think. So.
I'm sure it will.
It better be.
Right.
Now, when you were talking to the colonel, you learned to ski. You're originally from Maine, is that right?
Correct.
And you learned to ski growing up
Correct.
on the Dartmouth ski team.
Yes, then followed that, I began, excuse me, skiing at an early age. And of course, that was something new.
Yeah.
And then the development of the sport. My father was interested in the sport and one of the pioneers doing things organizationally and working with youth in Maine in developing the sport and interest in it. So I was just one among many, but that's where it all began.
Now, you went to Dartmouth. You were on the Dartmouth ski team?
Correct, yes.
Which is the legendary ski team from
Well, we
that
had a
era.
good team without being too immodest, that's right. We had some, well, we were tops in the skiing world at that time, collegiately.
Yeah.
We competed against the German universities, and the Swiss universities, and Norwegian universities, and we beat them all.
Before the war.
And as you were aware at that time, it was for events. The usual, alpine events and Nordic.
And Nordic. And the Alpine events did not include
And the
the Super
combined
G.
points gained thereof,
Right.
so you really had to have some pretty good people in each of the disciplines.
And what was your specialty?
Ski jumping,
Jumping.
and obviously that followed cross country because it was a Nordic combined that you had to be good at, the combination.
Now, you were in the 1940 Olympics?
Well,
or
I
on
was
the
on
Olympic
the team because the war began in September of 40, so that ended the Olympics,
Right. Now, you had the war experience with the 10th Mountain Division.
Correct.
Obviously still skiing with the 10th. or is that not so
not
obvious?
Not at this point, sir. Yeah, my balance isn't the best anymore.
Now,
And my coordination.
short skis will help.
Well, I know they would, that's true.
Now, when you were on leave at Camp Hale, you would come over here, or even while you were in maneuvers, you'd come over to Aspen. When was the first time you came here? Do you remember that?
Well, let's see. I reported in Hale in December of 42. So it was that 42 and 43 winter. I spent, obviously, most of my skiing career while in high school and obviously college in the East. I was on a U.S. team to Chile in 37, but that was about, and also came to Sun Valley, which was the second year of being open in 37, to compete with the Dartmouth team against the University of Washington. But that visit to the West stuck in my mind, and that's the reason I did come back out here, to get concerned with the ski business after college.
Right. Now,
Seeing these lovely mounds, treeless, nothing but beautiful white powder snow. Yes.
white, not blue.
That's
not
correct.
blue ice.
That's
white powder,
right.
yeah.
Correct.
So after the war, you come back to Aspen. You said in October, almost immediately after you got out of the service.
Well, that's what, I received my discharge, you might
Discharge
say,
and-
from that time.
and
I
you-
received an honorable discharge from World War II. At the same time, I signed a reserve commission, inactive reserve commission as a captain. So I freed myself from active participation in the military, but not completely.
So you still had a connection with the military
That's
during the
correct.
years you were in Aspen.
But said another way, I was on a civilian status,
Right.
which meant that I could enter into the world of commerce or whatever you want to call it. Okay.
Which is the perfect lead-in to coming to Aspen in 1945. Can you tell us what Aspen was like at that point? The first lift wasn't built until December of 46.
That's correct.
So there was a period of time there before the chairlift was built, but after Billy Fisk and Ted Flynn had, or Ted Ryan, I'm sorry, had started the skiing up near Ashcroft, but the war interrupted. You come back. What was Aspen like at that point? We all hear about it being run down, dirt streets, in need of of something. What was your feeling?
Well, I don't think that expression, being run down, this has been sort of a little trading area after the demise of the silver business.
Right.
And let's say some of the old-time miners were still around then. And of course, the only mine that was operating then, other than some of the dumps that were being reprocessed, was the Midnight Mine. And the Willoughbys family were concerned with that.
On Aspen Mountain.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And at that time, of course, those of us that were here, looking over the mountain and still wanting to ski on what had been developed before the war, the Roche Run and so forth, with the interest then. So there was an interest in skiing then, after the mining, that had developed before we got here. In other words, the locals obviously had done some certain things and had some promotion through Billy Fisk and, as you mentioned, Ted Ryan. Tom Flynn was one of them.
Tom Flynn, right.
And there was one other gentleman whose name escapes me now. So when we got here was the town, run down to the extent that there were homes available, taxes hadn't been paid on.
How much would you say?
And dirt streets. The status of the town financially was due to the condition of the available funds to run organizations like Pitkin County and the other entities. What was nice about the town as compared to other areas developed, it was existent. It had a history. There were sewer lines. There were power available. You understand? Those things were in place.
The infrastructure.
With the infrastructure, which is very important in any town, they were here.
Right.
So while a town in a certain place, from the appearance of some of the buildings, were run down, that infrastructure was solid, had a base, people experienced and know how to do it. The other thing which I think is important to bring out is, and the people. It's such a community I found here. So those of us that came here right after, from the 10th Mountain Division, and I presume those people who were interested in the ski business, you see, reason for their being interested in the ski business, like Ted Ryan, Billy Fisk, and so on, was the reception they got and the interest to develop this area as a skier. That brought people together, created a sense of community. When Friedl and I and Percy got here, that was so true involving us personally. I can't tell you, we were welcomed with open arms. My God, they'd do anything for you. They'd help you pay for the, you could buy one of these homes for taxes and you start to fix it up. They'd come down and help you without being asked. Help you paint, replumb the place for you. That sense of community, and to be getting out of service and have that type of reception, you can't believe what it did for you. My God, it was unbelievable.
That's very well.
Just like you're joining your own family.
Which I think still exists. I think that's why people still love Aspen.
That's right.
You know, and I'll touch on that as we get towards the
Right,
end and
yeah.
ask you. Let's go through some questions here. You moved here in October of '45
From Colorado Springs.
from Colorado Springs. What were the first things that you did? Because ultimately you ended up buying a bar.
Well, you have to find a roof over your head.
Right.
So
where did you live?
I was married. I was married in Denver during the war. Anyway, after the war, discharge, we began to know about, from Camp Hale, we began to know about Aspen, because some of us came over from Camp Hale and skied here. And so we knew there was a facility here, and knew that some time probably, well, yeah, let's keep that in mind, you understand? Everybody was in the interesting thing about what I'm saying is, of course, at Camp Hale in the mountains, and being called a ski troop, we spent a lot of time on skis. We could only get out of camp every other weekend. And after spending 2 weeks on skis, we still went skiing on weekends. You know, when you think about it, boy, they were really a bunch of nuts.
Sounds like ski bums to me.
Some of us came over here, and then I used to ski because my wife lived in Denver when I was in camp. We skied elsewhere, like Winter Park and around. But anyway, getting back here, that's the type of town it was when we got here, the three of us. And we were well received, and we enjoyed that period in helping them improve the situation, develop this, you know, help the ski club, sure.
Right. And did Percy and Friedl get here the same time you did?
Oh, well, yes. No, Friedl was the one that was the initial entrepreneur, you might say, here. Yeah, Percy and I joined him. Yeah, so it was Friedl that started this thing, and so we became involved here financially with him, and also operationally, cutting trails, working, sure, you know.
And then you started the ski school.
And then
Before the lift opened?
Oh, sure. We used to. There used to be the ski club building up here.
Yeah, on Mill Street.
Yeah, about. We used to sit below this cat track, and because the open slope then only went up so far, right, to the bottom of the corkscrew. Right. We used to take the brush off that and off the ski jump landing hill, and we were cutting trails on the mountain during the summers. And in other words, we were contributing both physical and, to the extent, financial, and certainly promotionally, because Friedl Ski Club made a couple of films, and I went down and showed a lot of these films to places in Colorado Springs and around the state. Percy was sent back in the Midwest, you know, showing the ski clubs back there and civic organizations. So we were promoting the place.
And you'd hike up. For people people who are thinking, well, how did they get up the mountain?
Well, that's right. If you wanted to ski, there's only one way to get there.
Walking.
Walk.
Now that was the case until the first Lift 1 opened. It was built and opened in December of '46, officially
That's right.
in '47. How did that change being the managers of the ski school? It must have been a night and day thing.
Well, of course, you're going to get more people.
And more skiing.
And more skiing.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure as I know what to say about your question. Of course, you're getting more people. There was pressure to get the ski lift on the mountain because Walter started selling shares, you see. There were separate shares for the mountain operation, Aspen Ski Company, changing, and what I'll call the real estate entity. Walter was going ahead and selling shares. He found out really that people would rather buy shares in the ski entity than buildings. But he went ahead and bought buildings on his own and improved them, and of course sold them. But so when people started to come here, they didn't want to walk anymore. So the pressure was on to get some kind of an upski other than that old boat tow.
Right.
And the three of us used to work on that baby sometimes. We had to rebab it, that old
Daily?
lift, you betcha, and shovel the pathway in many cases. But anyway, all of that pick and shovel work we had to accomplish because of lack of funds and to get what money back into the coffers. So the pressure was on to get it. Now, I think I'm very correct on this matter. The pressure was on Friedl to raise enough money, and the pressure was on to get the ski lift built. Friedl couldn't raise enough money. In the time that Walter wanted the ski lift built, so he made a deal with Friedl. You can have the ski school entity, and I'll take over the lift because I've got the financing to do it, which of course he had. Yeah. So then Friedl lost control of the mountain through that. It wasn't necessarily Friedel's lack of endeavor, he just couldn't get enough money together.
Do you remember how much the lift cost?
Well, let's see, I think, who built that? American Steel and Wire, I think. I've got the financial reports at that time because I was a stockholder in the Aspen Ski Company. So was Percy, and so was Friedl. Yeah. So I can't give you that figure now.
Probably less than now.
I must say that I have. Oh yes, sure. $2, $2 a ride. The financial report, to a certain degree, are in the stuff that's in the Historical Society,
Okay.
but I don't have it at hand here.
No problem. Now, you taught skiing, cut trails in the summer. At what point did you decide that you wanted to buy a restaurant bar, and when did you do that?
Well, to answer you briefly, the first year I worked here, I made $900. I was married, had a stepdaughter. You can't do very much with $900.
Even in 1945?
So we scratched around, and in the event, I eventually realized it would be a while, before the result was developed from any aspect to be, let's say, a very successful operation. It doesn't have to mean that you have to wait as long as to 2008, but it's going to take a little while. As a matter of fact, in my estimation, Aspen didn't really get to be something until about the middle 50s, late 50s. Certainly by the 60s, well, they were well on their way.
Yeah.
But certainly not 10 years before that. I can attest to that financially and being personally involved. So, yeah. And besides, there were only 2 or 3 liquor licenses in town at that time. Well, having been a skier for a number of years all over the country, or loving the ski sport, one great thing that skiers usually do, they gather usually in a place to congregate.
You got to tell the
saloon
stories.
somewhere and have a glass of beer and discuss the day.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean?
The sport isn't done till the
That's
après.
right. There was that building sitting right there, practically at the bottom of the hill.
By itself.
By itself.
Standing there.
And it was an old building, had some character to it, like the town, because of its history. That's another thing that's important. When we talked about the infrastructure, one thing we can add to that is the character of the town. That's very important too.
Which you contributed to tremendously by buying. Now, did you buy the building or the business, or how did that
I didn't
work?
create the character of that building. It was built in, 1868 by this guy.
But you added to
But
the
that
character.
was on a famous street. There was a lot of action in that street.
That's right.
Past history. You know what I mean by that. That's right.
Yeah. Nod, nod, wink, wink. Yeah.
The hitching post was still outside because the ranches were still being operated as growing cattle and so forth. And still holding rodeos. A bunch of us got together one day. We set up a rodeo and conducted the whole thing. That's part of development of the west end of the town. Anyway, there was a dirt road outside. It had a history and so forth. So I thought that was a good investment.
So Tim Kelleher owned it, is that right? Fellow named
Mrs. Kelleher.
Mrs. Kelleher.
Tim had taken a deep six long before.
Okay.
Mrs. Kelleher, and she lived in a little brick building sitting all by itself directly across the street. The building was altogether was probably no bigger than this room we're in.
Mm-hmm.
That's where she lived. And she had a local guy, two brothers, George Tekauchik and Eddie Tekauchik. Eddie was a bartender.
Mm-hmm.
It was a
at
local
that
spot.
bar.
Now the other saloon was Slim Willis's Grill.
Where was that?
That was down back of. That was back. You know where the drugstore used to be? The only drugstore then in town on the corner.
On the corner of the
It
mall
was across
there, from the Elks
across
building.
the street from the post office.
Yeah.
Then, and the Elks Club up top.
Mm-hmm.
He was on that same street back of the post office. Post office was over here, let's say. Slim Willis, the only other license was the Elks Club had a license. So anyway, I bought it.
What year was that?
I bought that in '46.
And what was it called when you bought it?
Well, it was known as Kelleher's Place, or Kelleher's Saloon.
Now, for those who may not have caught on exactly where we're talking about up to this point, we're talking about the Red Onion. You bought it. You changed the name to the Red Onion, is that right?
That's correct.
Where did you get that name? We've been wondering about that for years.
Well, let me begin. That wasn't the first name. That was the name that I ended with. But the first name I considered was the Silver Queen. And I thought, that doesn't have enough tweak for me, personally, the way I'm built. You know, that's true. It's in keeping with the town and so forth. But I'd like to have something more identifiable. That had a little bit more kick to it, a little tweak.
A little irreverence, maybe.
How this came about, every Sunday, once I bought it, I found out that the Caparella family, they were gardeners in town, and I don't know how much they sold their produce to, but they did a lot of gardening for the Brown family, Darcy Brown and so forth, kept the property up and all that kind of stuff. The whole family would gather in the back room every Sunday afternoon and just yak, and so I used to join them being new in town, and I got to know them personally, and so finally, you know, after knowing them, I felt like I could ask a few questions about what do you people do here, you know? You're all Italians and so on. Oh, you've been here a while? Oh, yeah, we've been here a while. Well, we garden. I said, oh, you mean you're raising produce? Yeah, to a certain degree. Well, we gardeners for the Brown family and so on. Yeah, well, what do you raise? I wasn't aware that anybody was doing that sort of work in town. I understand you females keeping plants around and stuff, but nothing like they conducted. Well, it came out, they were raising this, and now all of a sudden we raised some red onions too. I said, you raise red onions? I said, is this a regular onion? Well, yes, but sometimes they're a little bit more mild than the yellow onions you see. I said, that's interesting, yellow onions. You've been doing that? That name stuck with me, Tommy. It stuck with me, and that's how it happened. Just as strange as that.
So that's the story.
And I tell you, in my civilian life, I've been in sales department. I've traveled all over this country. There are other Red Onion restaurants around besides the one here and down the road there.
Now, the Red Onion has and this is something I also wanted to find out about. There's a story. There was a bullet hole in it, apparently. Do you know anything about that?
No. Okay. Where was it? Where'd you find it? I mean, where was it located?
Supposedly, it was above the portico from where you go from the bar into the back room. There was supposedly a bullet hole up there.
Well, let me comment on things like that. One of the things, I'm from the East, one of the things that enchants me is the West. And if I could have been, instead of being raised in Maine, if I could have spent my youth and been born in Colorado, I'd probably have been a cowboy. That's how much I love the West. Well, now there were pictures of these fighters. Do you realize in the mining camps throughout the West, these barehanded fisting, like Jack Dempsey began, they fought barehanded.
The Manasseh Mall?
Yeah, and somebody turned over an old 10-quart pail, and that was a gong, you know. But the miners bet, you're passing the money around, you know, and right up to the ring. That's the kind of town Aspen was. People wore guns here. So when you say a bullet hole, you know, that's all part of the deal. You know, so what, in other words? You understand what I'm getting at?
Sure.
So I never found one. I tell you what I did find. And I used Platt Rogers as my contractor. Platt Rogers was one of the 6 contractors that formed a consortium to build Camp Hale. So besides I knew some of the principals that came from Denver, so I used them. So the foreman came up to me one day, what do you want me to do with the bar, Mr. Litchfield? Well, I said, what do you mean? Well, he said, there's so much coats of varnish and shellac on there. He said, it's tough for me to refinish it. He said, I recommend we take it all off. When he took off all that furniture, I never saw inlaid wood like in my life. Beautiful inlaid wood. Mahogany, baby. All different shades, little squares. Beautiful. I just said, boy, keep it. That was, you know. But anyway, go ahead. I'm getting you off the track here.
Well, no, this is what we want to talk about. You mentioned the photos of the boxers, which right up until it
those were
closed.
the times. These were some of the notable boys that passed through camps here, Central City, over on Divide, all through the mining camps, Leadville, pick up some money, baby.
And they were there when you bought the place?
Oh, yes.
The photos. So you didn't change that at all?
No. That's part of, so I say I love the West, I want those babies to stay right there.
Which they did till the end.
That's right.
And who knows if it's the end?
I don't want to change this place.
We'll find out.
I don't want to change this place because that's what I want right there.
Now, you said you were one of only 3 liquor licenses in town. At the end of
Full liquor licenses.
4? Oh, did the Jerome have one?
The Jerome had one, Slim Willis had one, and probably the Elks.
The Elks, and then you.
All that Tim had, or Mrs. Kelleher, was a beer and wine license.
And is that all you stayed with for a while?
Oh,
beer
no,
and wine?
before I took the chance that I could get a license after working a few political angles. You understand about those things, do you?
Yep, and we won't delve
into
that much.
Yes, so then I bought it knowing that chances are I would be granted it. At that time, the way Colorado State ran the liquor industry, you didn't have to serve a full meal at that time, but you had to have at least an edible sandwich. Well, here's what happened with some of the smart boys in the state that ran a restaurant or a bar, let's say. They made rubber sandwiches up, put them in wax paper and put them on the bar, and got by with it. But at the time I bought the license, they got wise to that, and Mr. Litchfield, if you want a full liquor license here, you got to serve food. And that doesn't mean an edible sandwich. Let's call it meals, you know. So I had to put in a full kitchen and so forth.
Now, with the limited amount of places available for après-ski, were you really busy there after skiing?
God.
What was it like?
Everybody, I don't care if there's only 10 people on the mountain, all 10 were here. The other thing that always helped, I don't know why the midnight mine truck picked up the 8 or 10 miners that were working there, but it always left them off at the close of the day right in front of the Red Onion.
So you did pretty well?
Have you
do well?
Have you ever been in a bar sometime when a call came in, let's say it was your wife, and the bartender picks up the phone, and this is Tim, what's your last name?
Egan.
Egan, wife. Oh yes, Tim just left, Mrs. Egan.
And
I was doing that. for all of those miners. Yeah.
Were you bartending?
Mishmash. Oh yeah, I had
Yeah.
a 10 bar. Sometimes we got so busy we used 3 bartenders.
Wow.
Bill Marotte used to 10 bar for me, the old Bill. His father, Bill Marotte's
The rancher, we'll say.
yeah, Bob Klusmeyer. All these people, yeah, they lived up there near where the ski club had their hut up there. Not a hut, it was a nice building. Hardwood floors and so forth. Nice building.
Have you been over to the Onion since you've been in town?
Well, I
Just out of
walked by it
curiosity?
yesterday, but they got the windows all papered up, and I didn't think there was anybody inside.
It's hard to say. So how long did you own the Red Onion for?
I owned it for 6 years. I sold it when I got called back for the Korean War.
And who do you remember who you sold it to?
Yeah, Arnold Kuster.
Who?
No, I sold it to a guy, first sale, the sale I made only one, to a guy by the name of John Siler, S-I-H-L-E-R. He was a Chicago guy. A lot of Chicago people came because they knew of Walter Pepke and invested. John Siler only owned it for a year or two. He was kind of a playboy, and I don't know whether he ran it into the ground, but he's the one that sold it to Arnold Kuster. And that Milwaukee or Minneapolis businessman that furnished the money for Kuster to buy it.
Right.
Yeah, so that's who I sold it to.
Now,
I sold it to them in about 1951, 52.
did you regret that? Or
Well, I didn't know what was going to happen to me.
Sure, you were heading off to your second war. This would be a question that will almost kind of wrap up our little section here, but it may not because of your answer. Your name is very prominent in Aspen's history, especially this period where skiing started, where the town went from unknown to world renowned, the 1950 race, put in the lift, et cetera, et cetera. And then you go off to the Korean War, and you never moved back here after that. Am I right there?
That's
Permanently? But you keep coming back. What is it about Aspen that,
Well, the
that
same
really...
that got me here in the first place, skiing and in the town. We spent, I mentioned, I guess, about, and you asked me, it kind of stimulated my thoughts on it about community, about infrastructure, about people's interested in skiing from their past history of being mining. And all of that, you see, you know, during times of development called promotion, lots of things happen. Personalities happen, always will happen. But during development periods, at that time, nobody's making much money. The investors haven't achieved what they're after yet because there isn't enough commerce in town. Oh yes, you're still buying groceries, but I mean, talking about a new entity on the mountain and lifts and numbers of people to come here and hotels to build rooms and all of this, you see. That is the promotion development period. And it took Aspen, as it did even Sun Valley. It takes years to get the thing going, like any business, as a matter of fact. So during that time, personalities come and go. Sometimes there's maybe conflict, sometimes there isn't. You understand what I'm trying to say here?
Yeah, I think so.
Without getting into names and all of this stuff, what I'm saying is, yeah, this is always one of the best places to ski in the world.
Still is.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, just to kind of wrap up, because I think we've touched on what I would call an emotional connection to Aspen, a financial connection. Are there any specific special memories when you look back on the time that you lived here in Aspen that jump out at you? And by that I mean specific memories, not general. And because I also think as you speak, you sound a lot like the way myself and a lot of people feel about skiing. It almost becomes a religious experience, although that might overstate it a bit.
It's a way of life.
It's a way of life.
Yeah.
So you were here with that frame of mind. What sticks out when you look back on those years?
Well, to answer that, a little bit of my makeup, the way I am, has got to be part of the answer. That I've always liked a challenge. And the sense of working under a condition of challenge and being part of achieving a goal has always been satisfactory to me. After I left the ski business, people that hired me, I think after let's say an interview, probably might have, as I look at myself, probably were impressed with the type of person like that, because I ended up solving problems for them, accepting the challenge is the reason that they hired me to solve it for them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I've been part of that sort of a thing. So to be part of something, particularly at the time it happened, when all three of us, Friedl, myself, and Percy, were all relatively young, Friedl being the older, but you know, relatively young, didn't have enough experience in commerce because we were just out of college, pretty much 2 or 3 years out, you know, you're just hardly getting your feet planted. Mm-hmm. So to be part of a common endeavor, that was a challenge. Be part of a team, that's a challenge. Mm-hmm. And to be on something new and doing something you loved, which is skiing, it all came together in one great big nice ball. Yeah, that's why. So for me, it's pleasant to relive that now.
Almost like it was yesterday.
Well, yes, and not quite, but close.
Maybe a few years. Well, and finally, the last thing I like to touch on, which is a legacy besides the Red Onion that you've left, is the 10th Mountain Hut Division, and I know Colonel Merritt touched on it. And before we go there, let's take a quick look at this photo. Can you tell us, this is the Red Onion? You can, and I know we'll have a closer photo at the point where the little segment ends here, so people can look at it closer. This is in 1947. I think the back of it says. Just tell us who's behind those beers there.
Well, that's myself here on the left. Mm-hmm. A fellow by the name of Lenny Wood, who became secretary, I think, of the Aspen Ski Company at one time. Mm-hmm. Percy Rideout.
Who I might add, Little Percy the Run is named after Percy Rideout.
I think probably it is. Yeah. Percy was a Dartmouth grad, class of 1940. That's Friedl, Pfeifer. Dick Wright worked along, was a ski instructor here for years, and worked in the summertime as a finish carpenter for a contractor. You recognize Horace Hendricks by name. That's what he did in the summertime because, you know, he had a
lot of people still do.
And this last gentleman is Andy Ransom, who was somewhat of a character. He and Lenny Woods built a log cabin out here on the west end of town. That's the cabin that Whip Jones bought from them when Whip Jones, you know who I'm talking about?
Sure, Highlands.
Moved here, yeah, sure.
And the pictures of the boxers are in the background,
yes,
which we hope will remain. We'll see.
Now, when I bought the saloon, I didn't move anything. Mm-hmm. If the fixtures were on that wall, that's where they stayed. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I did add a couple of slot machines, so
the business side of things.
Yes, that's right.
And then we have another picture behind this.
And yes, let me finish
this.
Okay,
sir.
The caricatures of the famous skiers who came here to train or to race. Right. Those were in the back room where the Caparella family used to make, that I remodeled to make somewhat where I served meals, sort of a dining room. Mm-hmm. All of those characters were on this same wall, which is the east wall. Right. The way the building sits in this room, which is well, looking at it, you would enter this way and go into the dining room here, were on that same wall in the other room. Right. Yeah. There were about 20 of them at one time.
And I've
got 15, which I've given to the
Yep.
Historical Society.
Snuffy Smith,
But,
is that?
but there's about 6 of them that are missing. Myself is one that's missing. My wife is missing, and some others.
Snuffy Smith did those, is that right?
Snuffy O'Neal.
Snuffy O'Neal.
Yeah.
And he did it in payment for meals and
Well,
things? That's the story.
As we've mentioned here, perhaps not with you, but with Dick, nobody had much money then. And, you know, the guy's a frequent place, and because I served inexpensive hamburgers, you know, at that time, the prices. Anyway, you know, they ran up some bills, and that was all right with me until my accountant, Howard Osmond from Gunnersville Springs, said, you know a guy by the name of Snuffy O'Neal? Yeah. Well, I said, I think you ought to talk to him. They said, why? Well, they said, he's running up a pretty good bill on you, John. So I had a talk with Snuffy. Snuffy said he understood. He said, let me show you something. So the next day he brought over a couple of those
The caricatures.
caricatures. I said, Snuffy, I'll cancel your bill right now. Just keep going, buddy.
Smart move.
That's right. That's right. All right, next
And then
picture.
we've got one final shot here, which gets to my discussion a moment ago about the 10th Mountain Hut system. I know Colonel Merritt mentioned Fritz Benedict being on the original board designing that, and you too were on that original board.
That's correct.
What prompted all of this? Because the hut system in the United States was almost non-existent. I know Fred Braun had a few huts up out of Ashcroft.
They've got the Appalachian Trail in the east.
And the Appalachian Trail in the east.
But that's right. They're few in number, if only singular. Fritz had made, as you're aware, had made a trip at one time, so-called high trip, Europe, you know, joining France, Italy, and
Switzerland.
And Switzerland.
Right.
And being an outdoor guy, fine. So he started talking to people, and of course he got the former Secretary McNamara and others interested. And so the idea started to take fruition because of, you know, scratch. They needed some money, and these people were available with that, and also thought it was a great idea. This picture was taken on Uncle Bud's hut. Uncle Bud's hut is the hut between the 10th Mountain Division hut, which you access near Tennessee Pass, trailhead, and let's see, Uncle Bud's, and the hut that's almost at the top of Tennessee Pass.
Right.
The next hut after that, going west, would be Betty Bear hut
yeah.
at the head of the frying pan.
Yeah.
Yeah. These characters, we had a board meeting. That's myself standing up. This is Bill Boddington, who has been a great contributor, was one of the 4 contributors to build the 10th Mountain Hut, the 10th Mountain Hut. And also was founded the 10th Mountain Division Foundation, heavy contributor there. Lived in Colorado Springs, was in the 87th, was in the lumber industry. The Boddington Lumber Company distributed lumber throughout the Rocky Mountain Empire and also throughout Michigan. And this is a member of a Norwegian, Del Atgard by name, who was one of the contributors to the foundation, the Hut Association, on occasion of a board meeting back a few years at Uncle Bud's hut. So, most of these huts, as people I think realizing, were named after lost ones, either through war or some other unfortunate circumstance.
And this was
named
all
in their memory, in other words.
And this was all in the late 70s, early 80s.
Yes, it is one of, my personal opinion, it is one of the great legacies of the World War II 10th Mountain Division.
I would agree.
And it is very popular.
Very popular. Hard to get a bed in them anymore.
Yeah, right.
Which is a great
And they all
tribute.
sleep about 16
Yeah.
apiece. Yeah.
It's a fabulous system. Well, for all you've done for Aspen's skiing, Aspen's après-ski, and Aspen's Nordic, I'll thank you for that, because
Well,
I've taken
there
advantage
are
of
a lot
all
of fond
three.
memories I have, and the place is unique. And I would call it as unique. Now, there's other ski areas.
Yeah.
And you know, we aren't talking necessarily about open slopes and vertical drop and numbers of rooms and lifts. But you know, something called character of a town is important. Aspen has character.
Can't think of a better way to wrap things up, John.
Okay.
It's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And let's go après-ski sometime.
Okay.
You're on.
We should have had you last night. We had a little après-ski going.
It took us 3 hours to order any food.
Thank you.